Well, hello chaps, and welcome back to DTH Reviews. Now today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Unity. Now in the past there has been a few occasions where you, Jameson, you have done, I was going to say solo reviews, but you have basically played the game and I haven't for some reasons, and we've kind of made it into more of a discussion than a review because I haven't played it. The first game we did was Titanfall because I didn't have an Xbox One or a good computer at the time. And then recently we did Forza Horizon, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And again, I didn't have an Xbox One at the time, so we've done it before where I literally just haven't been able to play the game, so we thought we'd continue anyway. But this is kind of a different occasion where I haven't played the game simply because I really didn't want to. And
You're a smart man.
I'll quickly explain why. I played all the Assassin's Creed games. And when Unity was coming out, the first thing I heard was that it wasn't very different, it wasn't very interesting, it wasn't getting very good reviews. But the reviews didn't really mention that it had many bugs, from the ones I watched anyway. And then, I think just a few days after it had launched, people just started listing endless amount of problems and bugs, which I was really surprised about, because I just thought it wasn't very interesting. And then people were like, this game is completely broken. So I was going to get into it, I was going to download it because I thought the co-op sounds fun, but the amount of complaints that came in were just, I've never seen anything like it in a single player game. But you, my friend, you have you've enjoyed it and you've played some of it, so
Shut up. Enjoyed it.
so let's get into it. Let's hear your experiences. I'm looking forward to
Okay,
this.
well, before I go, I have not played Assassin's Creed 3, so I haven't really, up until now, had a negative experience with Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed 3 wasn't that bad, by the way. Wasn't
No,
that
I
bad.
know,
It was just
but
the
it
weakest
wasn't-
for a while.
Yeah. So, like, I played, a few hours of 1 and then moved on, and then 2, all the Ezio games, and then 4, and they've all been great. I've enjoyed them all. I really liked 4 last year. We did a review for it, but we never put it out, but 4 was one of my favorite games last year, just because it was pirates. I was looking forward to this one. I thought, it would be cool to get back to a new city.
I was interested in it.
Better graphics. They had talked about some positive changes. Well, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I have basically the 5 or 6 components of the game, and it's like there's a positive and there's some negative.
Okay, so I've got a question. Like, what was the first experience when you were playing, when you were like, there's something a little bit wrong here? Like, this
Okay,
shouldn't
that's
be...
a good... I know exactly where to start with that. Okay, so you start and it's like yada yada, blah blah blah. You're playing as the main character. It's cutscene, and then you like fall out of a window and chase someone, and it was at about 20 frames per second.
Oh, that's nice, smooth.
And right then I knew, oh boy, because it wasn't exactly a crowded area. There were maybe 20 people nearby.
And you probably say you were playing on a PlayStation 4, so no PC or hardware issues.
No, but I don't think the PC version's much better either.
Yeah, true.
That was the first negative impression, was holy shit, it looks nice, but boy, the frame rate is bad.
Yeah.
And that sort of carries on into everything else. Once you get into Paris, and you unlock all of Paris, like it looks unbelievable. Like, it looks incredible, except it runs at like 25 frames per second, seemingly like 60 or 70% of the time.
Strange.
Did
they
well,
explain
it's not
it?
strange.
Did they explain the issues with the frame rate?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just poorly optimized. Granted, it looks like it's an open world game, and it's probably the best looking game out there right now, and it's open world.
Wow, okay.
Just the textures and the lighting and the insane amount of detail, like it's really impressive. And their art, whoever, 100, 200, 300 people that did the art, they deserve a lot of credit, because it is really incredible how accurately they have recreated Paris. There's like the hundreds of little statues on the outside of some of the buildings and churches, and like it's an incredible looking game, but it just runs horribly at all times. And they said, like, first they said like, oh, it's the crowds, and then it wasn't the crowds, and then they put out a patch and it increased it by like 1%, and I don't really know what is killing performance, but it doesn't seem to run well anywhere. The PC doesn't, to my knowledge, run much better.
No, I haven't heard good things.
Like I've heard it be like either it runs fine or it runs at 20 frames per second no matter what settings you're using. So I don't really know. That's probably the biggest positive for me, and the thing that I've gotten the most enjoyment from is just looking at it.
You have sent me a few screenshots which look absolutely outstanding, and it kind of makes me feel kind of sorry, because obviously when there's a game on this scale, they have lots of different departments in the studio. So there would be like 3D modelers who would literally just dedicate their time to making these incredible buildings, and then obviously push it over to the animators, and then people will incorporate it. So they must have just spent like the last 2 years of their lives just slaving over these buildings, and then they just watch the game come out and just not really run really well. No one really appreciates it. So I feel kind of bad for the people who actually did their job well, and then the game.
I do too, yeah, because it's like they have a new option where you can just hold down the right stick for a second or two, and all the HUD turns off immediately.
Oh, that's nice.
And I've spent like, at least an hour just walking around looking at things, because it's hard not to just walk around and look at things, because it really does look amazing, and it is kind of a shame that it's yeah. God. Okay. I'll get into it for real now. So the first thing that they focused on was the changing up the combat.
Okay.
They wanted to make it more, I think they said more like fencing, where it's more of a focus on, you parry and you attack and just the animations especially. But the combat in Assassin's Creed, especially like up until, 4 last year, it's just the combat's been getting easier and easier. Like you just walk into an area and spin in a circle, and everyone in like a mile radius drops dead.
Yeah, it's very easy.
4 last year, like you could just hold down the Y button, which was like shoot, and you would just like quickly kill 4 people instantly, and it was ridiculous. It got to a point where you were just a killing machine, and it was way too easy. And I definitely was interested in seeing what they would do to make the combat more involved. And basically what they've done is made it so that you have to parry enemies. The early enemies you can just attack, but the harder enemies you have to either parry them or dodge them to be able to actually hit them. And that would be fine if the parry, the little like symbol above their head that says you should parry right now, if that popped up all the time, that would be nice. If the camera actually focused on living enemies, that would also help the combat. If the enemies weren't getting stuck on the environment, that would help. If you weren't getting stuck on the environment, that would also help. But all of those things are present, and so it takes the combat. I mean, the combat is already, it's too slow, I think, because it's like half the time you're just standing there waiting for someone to hit you.
Oh, right,
Because you can't do anything. You just sort of stand there, and it's like, okay, I'm waiting. And then they slowly, then they decide to hit you. But like, there are so many just glitches and problems and jank in every area of every part of the game, that it, like the combat especially, is hugely frustrating. And they've also put more emphasis on stealth, which would be attractive, because I mean the first AC1 especially, it was, you had to be really stealthy, and you're an assassin.
Yeah,
you should be stealthy. And those stealth mechanics are there, but again, they don't really they work for the most part, I think. Like you can take cover now and you can be sneaky, but there's no point, because it's just so much faster to just run in and kill everyone quickly, which sort of ties into a different part of it, which is you can now select your own gear and customize the look of your assassin, and what his outfit is and what his weapons are, and all those affect like how well how much health you have, or how much sneak detection goes up or down, and so you can customize basically all parts of the assassin's outfit, which you get through like unlocking campaign and co-op and playing their shitty mobile game and using Uplay and all this other crap. There's a side quest mission that gives you a whole bunch of money, and if you complete all the side quests in this one side quest chain, you break the economy about 3 hours in and have basically unlimited money.
Oh, nice.
Which then allows you to go and buy the best weapon in the game for about $40,000, and then you can just basically one-hit everyone in the game. So I did that.
Yeah.
About 4 hours in, because why not? and now I have no reason to use stealth ever because it's too inconvenient. I mean, it's not like running in and actually fighting is any more enjoyable, but it's faster.
Yeah.
And so these assassins, like some of the missions they allow you to sort of pick your route in. It's just like, here is the Notre Dame, get in however you like. And that's a cool idea. You know, there's like secret entrances and you can like bribe someone to give you the keys and sneak in there and then assassinate this guy. There are a bunch of missions like that, which would normally, they'd take a while and you'd have to play the game in a somewhat interesting manner. Something more like Assassin's Creed 1, actually. But why should I bother when I can just run in the front door and drop a smoke bomb and one-hit everyone with my overpowered sword? And so that it's just like these three things sort of work together to basically like erode all of the new stuff that they've put in the game, where it's just like, you allowed me to break the economy super early, and so now I don't need to play the game the way it should be played, which is weird. You know, it's just it's weird. This is a weird game. God. So yeah, the combat, like this is sort of the never-ending theme of this, is there are good ideas and there are smart changes that they've made, but they are let down by a whole bunch of other things.
But would you say that the new combat changes would be good if it was implemented well? Like, would you rather it stayed than go back to what I know from like 4 and 3, etc.?
I would prefer to just go back to what we had before.
Okay.
I mean, ideally something in between, because neither are great.
Yeah.
Like the previous games, it was too easy, and now it's still easy, but it's just slow. Like half the time you're just standing there waiting for someone to attack you, or you're trying to fight the camera off of this guy who's already dead, because it just auto locks. You can't select who you're locked onto anymore, so it just auto locks onto people and they die. And I think if it was all perfectly made, it still wouldn't be very interesting, because just the basic system of having to wait for someone to attack you before you can even damage them.
That's kind of the same in the old games as well, for the countering. It's quite similar.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. But at least, like, you could... I don't know, I just feel like every time I got into combat, half the time I was just standing there waiting. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. They're definitely, like, going down the right path of making the combat more interesting, but I don't know. It's not... it was not effectively... they didn't do it properly here. Okay. The next bit is traversal, which obviously it's an Assassin's Creed game. They like made the whole parkour thing what it is today, basically.
Yeah.
Freedom of traversal. Fuck me, goddamn it. So they have a new system where like you've always been able to run up, parkour up things really quickly, but it's always been sort of a pain to get down. They've either had a hay bale, there we go. They've either had a hay bale, or you have to just sort of slowly like drop from one ledge to another. So now they have a new system where you have parkour up and parkour down.
Okay.
Which allows you to basically, if you're at the top of the building, instead of holding right trigger and A, you hold right trigger and B and just start moving, and you'll just quickly climb down the building. That's a good change. I like that system. It's necessary. It's needed. But again, it's let down by the jankiness of the system itself. Assassin's Creed, you've always had those moments where you get stuck on something, or you jump off this building accidentally, or you're hanging on the building and it's just like, dude, just climb. Like the ledge is right there. Just grab it.
Yeah.
Those have always been present. They've always been frustrating. And I feel like they haven't necessarily been getting better at fixing that system. And it is at its worst in Unity. Like it is, I can't go 2 minutes without getting stuck on something or having a moment where I'm holding up and he is just not moving.
Wow.
It is almost constant. He cannot deal with little benches on the ground or tables. Or I don't know if the buildings on the outside have too many grab points and the game just gets confused and doesn't know what to decide. Like, you can't decide what to grab onto. I'm not sure what it is, but previously, like 4, there were probably maybe 8 or 10 times where I'd encounter that. It's literally like every 2 minutes. I just can't.
That sounds the worst.
Yeah. And combine that with the fact that the game is running at about 25 frames per second at all times. And you just get, the input is delayed because of the frame rate, and you just get this experience that is like, it is so infuriating. And it's a shame because, like I said, like parkour up, parkour down, good idea, smart. They've also added a ton of interiors to the map, so you can go into buildings a lot more frequently, which make the world feel bigger. But getting into a building is a pain in the ass because it says, like, they're constantly telling you, just hit left trigger when you're beside a window and you'll jump in, and that does not work ever. You'll be like hanging right beside a window and hitting left trigger over, holding it, nothing. You just will not go into the window. It's just like that across the board with the traversal. Like it's like they've never made an Assassin's Creed game before. And they just somehow broke everything that was unique about the traversal system. Wow. It's crazy. Like I don't know. Maybe I'll save that little bit for the end where it's like, how does this happen? How does this get made?
Yeah.
Because it's fucking unbelievable. There's also a story. Like, I don't fucking know. I don't know what's happening in it.
I've never been that invested in the stories, to be honest with you.
No, definitely not. After the end of 2, like, the ending of 2 just said, I realized, like, oh, this is complete nonsense. I'm not interested anymore. And that's fine. That's fine. I've known that for a while. AC4 last year had a really uninteresting story, but the modern day stuff was really crazy and weird, and I liked that stuff. The modern day stuff here is essentially non-existent.
I
you
liked it.
have no modern day character or anything. Like every once in a while you'll have some lady on a computer saying like, you're a fucking Templar or an assassin or something, do your stuff. I don't really know. The main character, I should say I haven't finished this game. Like I normally will finish a game before reviewing it. I haven't finished this story, and I will not finish it. I can't do it. It's a pretty typical Assassin's Creed story, so it's shit. Except there's no cool modern day stuff. That's basically it.
Okay.
That's basically all there is to say about that.
Great.
It's exactly what you expect from Assassin's Creed story.
Yeah, not much.
The co-op. So the co-op.
This is like the one aspect I was kind of interested in, and I wanted to give it a go.
Yeah. It's a cool idea. They don't have multiplayer anymore, at least for this game, the competitive stuff, which is fine. I've always loved the idea of it. I've just never gotten it. I've never really gotten it. Basically, I don't really. I think in concept it's a fantastic idea, but it's not for me. So yeah, co-op. I like co-op. And the co-op's actually half decent. It does good stuff with the setting of the French Revolution, which the main story seemingly has no idea that the French Revolution is happening. But the co-op, all the missions are like story focused, and they do some decent stuff with the French Revolution. The biggest problem with the co-op is that you have to play the game.
Oh no, well I'm out then. So I never.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like the co-op suddenly is better. It's the exact same combat. It's the exact same broken traversal. It seems to run at an even lower frame rate when there are 4 people
nice.
there. So, it's a cool idea. There is some good stuff there, but you're still playing the game. You're still dealing with the combat. You're still dealing with the traversal. So, like everything else, I think the ideas are there and they are good and they are smart, but they are let down by so much other crap and just a general lack of finesse and polish, I think, across the board. They've also gotten rid of, I forgot to mention, they've gotten rid of most of the instant fail missions.
That's good.
Yeah, and there are still, a few tailing missions.
Oh, no.
Because, everyone loves those.
No.
However, if you lose track of the guy, the game doesn't immediately fail state. It just says you've lost track of him, try and locate him again, and he's in a crowd somewhere, and you have to eagle vision to find him.
Okay.
So I've only encountered a fail state like once or twice, which is good. That's great, because that was like the worst part of previous AC games, which is just like, I failed probably I probably failed 50% of the missions in AC4, like at least once, because they were just so ridiculously tight-knit. So again, that's a good idea. I think that they allow you to sort of be a bit more free with the objectives. Like if you lose one objective, it sort of picks up to another objective, and that's a good idea. I think that's really necessary. Let me just see. I have a few other little nitpicky things here. You remember those really sweet loading screens where you could play as your assassin and like run around and throw dirt and pull out your knives or whatever? Yeah, that's gone. They got rid of that. You get to look at a really cool black screen for about 3 minutes while it loads every time.
Weird. Okay.
The load times are horrible and super long. There's microtransactions. I guess micro means $100.
What?
So that's new to me. The cheapest microtransaction is like $5.
Okay.
5, 20, 50, 75, 100 or some bullshit like that, and it's to give you points to upgrade your weapon. I don't even know. That's cool. I love them. I love microtransactions that are $100.
Jesus.
There's a whole bunch of Uplay stuff and like play Uplay. Have you played the previous games? Cool. You'll get this chest that gives you $200. You want to get this other chest that gives you $200? Okay, play our crappy free-to-play mobile app for 20 hours and you'll get the $200. And all those things are scattered across the map and they clutter the map, and the map is unusable because there's about 300 trillion different things on the map. Granted, you can sort of toggle some of them on and off, but once you synchronize all the viewpoints, the map is essentially useless because it's complete nonsense. And half the things on there you can't even get to because they want you to play all their other shitty things. That's about it.
Oh, yeah?
That's about it. Yeah, that's all.
Got off your system?
That's about all I can think of. I think so. I'm really frustrated because Assassin's Creed is cool. And Assassin's Creed Last Generation was like one of the highlights, I think. Even if AC3 wasn't amazing.
They're usually consistently fun 20-hour experiences.
Yeah, and the first game was like such a cool idea, and then the second and Brotherhood just executed on that idea perfectly.
Yeah.
And I've never really had a problem with Ubisoft's games, up until this year basically. I've liked all their games. But this year, I don't know, like they've just lost their minds.
What else was this year? Was Watch Dogs this year?
Well, Watch Dogs was this year.
Yeah, that wasn't the best.
And it was really just Watch Dogs and AC, but they are two pretty big blunders. Really, AC. Like, I would rather go and play Watch Dogs again than more AC.
And that's a big thing to say from you. Yeah,
I didn't like Watch Dogs all that much, but
No.
this is like one of the biggest, most successful game franchises in existence currently.
Yeah.
And this isn't their first Assassin's Creed game.
Nowhere
This is
near.
their 7th.
Yeah.
Or if you count their like Vita game and whatever, it's like their 9th Assassin's Creed game. And it is so unfinished. Like, it's so blatantly unfinished. They put out their apology last week or whatever where they're like, we're canceling our DLC and we just put out this patch. There's 300 fixes in there. And they're like, well, we didn't encounter any of this when we were testing. This is all unexpected.
Fuck off.
Bullshit. That game, even if, like, sure, I can believe that they would encounter some new glitches once the game ships. That's pretty standard. But it's not a finished product. Like the combat is broken. The traversal is broken. The story is garbage. It runs at 20 frames per second and there are like nonstop glitches, like me, like hanging onto the side of a building but actually floating in midair, or people's faces falling off.
That was great. I love those screenshots.
Glitching through the map, or getting stuck in a hail bay, or just like, it's unbelievable that they would. That it's like so blatantly obvious that they just said, fuck it. These people will buy anything. These guys are idiots. They're gonna buy this and they're gonna play it. And we're going to make money, and that's what it feels like. And I can tell you right now, I will not be buying Assassin's Creed next year.
Not until it comes out and people have verified.
Not until it's been like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. I will follow you in that. That sounds
because it's. We'll talk more about broken games soon. I think
more than we should.
But this is like the most broken, unfinished major release I've ever seen, and
it's pretty terrible.
It's really gross. Like it's not just like unfinished product, but there's also just like shitty money-making things in the game, like with their microtransactions and their free-to-play.
There was some
like
sneaky stuff they did with the microtransactions, wasn't it? They blocked it for the review copies or something like that.
Something like that. Like they weren't enabled during the reviews, so I don't think people realized that there were actual microtransactions in the game. Yeah, so
until
pretty fucking shady.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
But it is surprising when I started hearing about all these bugs, etc. Because, as you said, we're going to probably talk about some broken games in the future. But a lot of them are kind of online focused, where people just haven't figured out how to make all their servers run, and it's just network problems after network problems. But I was very surprised to hear that this Experience company had basically released an unfinished single-player experience. I know there is co-op aspects, but as you said, most of the bugs, etc., were when you just play on your own. So, yeah, I haven't played it yet. I'm not sure if I'll ever play it. They have been releasing a ton of patches. Oh my god. Jesus. That patch list you sent me was
300 fixes
insane,
on their third patch.
I probably will download it and just walk around, because you said the art was good, so I will probably give Paris an explore, but I don't plan on playing it all the way through, for obvious reasons. You've just... you think you've listed enough reasons in this last 20 minutes or so to kind of put me off ever wanting to play it properly, but, I'll go have a look through Paris. Is it Paris?
Paris, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I'll have a look through Paris. Can you climb the Eiffel Tower?
The Eiffel Tower, this is 1700s Paris. The Eiffel Tower doesn't exist.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I won't spoil it, but it actually does exist.
Is it like being built or something?
No. There are like one or two little sort of... I won't spoil it. It's like the one cool part of the game. It's pretty early on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. I don't think... maybe if they fix a whole bunch more stuff over the next month or two... if they get all of that stuff fixed, it might be okay. I've said, there are a lot of smart decisions made. They are just very, very poorly executed. I guess it happens.
Well, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't.
It really shouldn't, but it did. And they put it out, and they said, no, this is acceptable. We think it's okay for people to give us money for it. So... That's not cool, I don't think. I don't think people should buy it right now. Maybe not ever. I wouldn't say that it's the best thing to support something like this.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I would say, for the most part, skip it, unless you want to look at art, because it is really it is a really sharp-looking game across the board. But not necessarily worth the price of admission at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for you to review it, sir, and rate it.
Okay. Are you ready? You already know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to be generous and give it 2 stars.
2 stars? Brutal.
Because there are good ideas.
And it looks nice.
And it looks wonderful. It really does. If they execute on these ideas next year and actually finish making the game before they put it on sale, it might be pretty all right next year.
Yeah.
But, Victorian London is pretty cool. That's already leaked. That's cool. We
Yeah,
already know what next year's AC game is. Great.
So I might give it a go in the future, as you said. Maybe next year when there's a gap and maybe it's being patched to shit 100 more times, then maybe I'll give it a go. And every now and then on DTH reviews, we do kind of filler things when there's no games coming out, and we do catch-up reviews where we talk about stuff we played previously. So maybe it will pop up again, and I'll give my opinions on it. But for now, I think... Are you done? All off your chest? Have you finished?
I am so finished.
Okay. Well, that wraps up our Assassin's Creed Unity review. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.